There's this really cool question that many coin collectors ask themselves when handling an ancient coin. It goes like, wow, how many people must have held this coin? And you know what? That's a very interesting question worth investigating. And that's exactly what I did. Let's look into archaeological and numismatic evidence from coin hoards, look at some coins of different metals, and try to come up with an estimate. For how long did bronze, silver, and gold coins circulate during ancient times? Let's use Roman coins for this video, merely because I personally know more about them and there's an abundance of historical sources from the Romans that makes answering these questions easier. But the economic principles and estimates we can get here can be reasonably extrapolated for the Greeks and other civilizations, with an exception maybe to China and the Far East, as they had a monetary system more focused on just bronze. So let's start by base metals. That's bronze, copper, brass, and every cheap alloy. Basically the money of the masses. Now, what we need to understand is that base metal coins are fiduciary money. This means that the value of the metal contained in these coins was much less valuable than the value dictated by the state that issued it. Back in ancient times, precious metals were king, and coins such as this ass of Emperor Trajan were nothing but a convenience token, a way of making small change that had its value artificially given by state authority and linked to precious metals. This ass is worth 1/16 of the silver denarius. A denarius weighed around 3.4 grams during Trajan's time, meaning it equated to 0.212 grams of silver. Did the copper contained in this ass equate to 0.212 grams of silver? No, it was worth much less. Minting such a small silver coin would not only be impractical, but by striking these overvalued coins, the state made a profit. That's called seigniorage. So back to our question, for how long did these base metal coins circulate? Well, for as long as the monetary standard they were a part of existed, and this could be for a long time, centuries. Let's look at this other coin here. As you can see, it is completely toasted. On this side, we don't even know if that's an obverse or a reverse. We have nothing. It's completely worn. On the other side, it is also worn flat, with the exception that of this cute little countermark here, showing the head of the goddess Tyche. These countermarks were added to completely worn coins to revalidate them to be once more used as legal tender. The amount of wear is it's absolutely crazy. We can even make out if it's a Roman or a Greek coin. It's most likely a Greek coin, maybe struck under Roman rule by the look of it. And if the coin being worn flat wasn't impressive already, the countermark itself is also so worn that most of the features are gone. This coin must have circulated intensely for at least a full century. But hey, so far we're only at the conjecture level. Let's look at some hoard evidence. Hoards of base metal coins are not very common. People prefer to use their base metal coins and hoarded away precious metals. Even back then, Romans knew a precious metal coin was a better store of wealth and a hedge against inflation, although this monetary phenomenon wasn't really well understood back then. For that, we're looking at a bronze coin hoard from the city of Pompeii. Pompeii had a series of establishments dedicated to serving hot food off the counter, called the Thermopolium. Think about an ancient version of a fast food joint. In May 1939, a Thermopolium owned by a man called Vetutius Placidus was uncovered, and in one of the bowls, at its front counter, a hoard of thousands of coins was found, all of them base metals. So this must have been the shop's takings for several days of selling food. There are no good pictures of the hoard online, so you will forgive me for that, but the hoard had the denominations you would expect from such an establishment. Semises, asses, dupondi, sestertii, a vast array of coins used on everyday trade. The relevant information, however, relates to the kinds of coins we find in this treasure. Pompeii was destroyed in 79 AD, so we know the exact burial date for this hoard. Most coins were from the Flavian dynasty. That makes sense, these coins would have been the most recent coins. We also find lots of coins from the Julio-Claudian dynasty, so coins going as far back as Augustus. Some of these coins were approaching 100 years of age. But here's the curious bit. Around 2% of the hoard consisted of Republican coins that could have been a good 150 years old, and most surprisingly, an Egyptian coin from Ptolemy II dated to around 280 BC. This coin was some 350 years old when it was thrown in there. I wish I could find exactly which denomination it was or a picture of the exact coin, but Italian archaeologists seemed unwilling to publish that. I couldn't find this information. Now, despite this, such a coin was probably a statistical outlier. A coin that was lost, found, put back into circulation, that made its way to a merchant's pocket. It must have had a similar size, weight, and appearance to a Roman coin in circulation, and people just accepted it. In any case, we have direct evidence that some coins as old as 150 or so years could be seen in circulation. Some other bronze hoards dated to the 3rd century AD also seem to show a significant amount of coins from the 2nd century. This sestertius of Hadrian we have here has seen quite a bit of circulation. It's very worn and it probably saw action in the 3rd century. These are found commonly in hoards from the Severan dynasty and even a bit later. Considering this particular sestertius is from the year 125 AD and the Severans reigned until 235 AD, we could assume with some certainty that this coin probably saw a good century, if not a little bit more of circulation. So, the answer for how long could a bronze coin circulate, at least during the early empire? You could have easily seen 100-year-old coins circulating. 150-year-old coins would show up here and there, and rarely you might come across a 200-year-old coin, at least while the empire wasn't plagued with rampant inflation, like in the later 3rd century and beyond. But that's a topic I discuss in my video on the debasement of Roman money. Now, how about silver? Silver is an interesting metal. It is rare enough that it was considered precious and was hoarded away. That's why we find so many Roman denarii in amazing condition, like this gorgeous piece, also from Emperor Hadrian, that you have in your screen now. This little guy here probably didn't see more than 1 or 2 years of circulation before being stashed away, if it did circulate at all. In any case, silver was also common enough that a denarius wasn't worth too much money, and people would still use it with reasonable frequency. Bigger purchases, like for example buying food for an entire month, or any manufactured goods of some complexity like a knife, some shoes, a piece of furniture, would have been purchased with silver. The length of time silver would circulate before being hoarded was directly tied to how much or how often the central state issuing it messed with the silver purity. In broad strokes, silver stayed in circulation up to the point that it was more profitable to just hoard it for its precious metal content, and this time interval could fluctuate between centuries to a few years. Let's take some historical examples so we can get some more concrete number of years. Starting by the low end, let's look at the reign of Emperor Gallienus. In 253 AD, when he rose to power with his father Valerian, the coins were of around 35% silver content and still had a somewhat decent silvery appearance. For the next 13 years, the coinage would completely collapse, with its silver purity dropping to 5% and its weight falling too. Everyone knew that coinage was being destroyed by inflation and debasement, and as soon as you got a coin, you would do your utmost to stash it away because you knew the very next issue, the following year, would be lighter and less pure. This problem compelled inflation even more. It isn't unreasonable to think that coins circulated a single year or less before disappearing. On the other end of the spectrum, we have some very long and stable periods when coins were issued in high quality and could, theoretically, circulate for very long. From around the time the denarius was created, around 200 BC, to the time of the first Julio-Claudian emperors, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and Claudius, the denarius was kept at a stable 3.9 grams of silver, as pure as they could make it, meaning one could, theoretically, find a coin from the beginning of the early 2nd century BC, circulating during the mid-1st century AD. The only problem there would be the fact that silver is somewhat soft, so a coin likely wouldn't survive over 2 centuries of intense circulation. Now, the most interesting case for silver coins circulating for a long period of time is that of the legionary denarii struck under Mark Antony during his wars against Octavian. To pay for his troops, Mark Antony issued an obscene number of coins with slightly less silver than those of Octavian, 92% against the standard average of 97%. People caught on to the fact that these coins were of lesser quality, so whenever someone had one of these coins and another, later, better coin, they would spend the Mark Antony coin instead. So these coins kept on circulating and circulating and circulating. But for how long? Well, let's take a look at the Shapwick hoard, uncovered in England in 1998. This massive hoard of around 9,300 Roman silver coins had 260 Mark Antony legionary denarii amongst them. We already know that to date a hoard, we need to look at the quote-unquote youngest coin from that group. Well, the latest coin is from Severus Alexander, who reigned between 222 and 235 AD, and over half of the coins are from a few years earlier, from Septimius Severus. This means legionary denarii struck in 31 BC could still be found in circulation in the 3rd century AD, near 250 years after they were made. Of course, these were most likely not continuous 250 years of circulation. The coins would be reduced to nothing, but still, a very impressive fact. We can also look beyond Roman borders in search of evidence for how long Roman silver circulated. Denarii are commonly found in regions such as Germany, Poland, and even Ukraine. These regions were home to a series of tribes, and they got a hold of these coins through trade with the Romans. Not a lot of tribes struck their own coinage, and many used this important Roman silver as their money instead. That's why when a denarius shows up in these countries, we often find them heavily worn from circulation. The most common silver found on barbarian lands ranges from Republican coins through coins of the 2nd century AD, with some 4th century silver mixed in as well. Given the wear pattern and the fact these barbaric tribes eventually migrated to Roman territory in the 5th century, we can also estimate these coins circulated for many decades, and 100-plus-year-old coins in circulation must have been a common occurrence, as they were traded merely by their raw bullion value. So, to put an answer to the question, for how long did silver coins circulate? It depends. From a single year in times of inflation to potentially 2 centuries in times of monetary stability. Very cool. Now, how about gold, the king of metals? Well, here's the thing. Gold wasn't really meant to circulate much. A silver Roman aureus was worth a whopping 25 denarii. That's nearly a month's salary in a single coin. The number of aurei made was also significantly lower than that of denarii, by a large margin, so only the rich and powerful, think noblemen, generals, and high-ranking officers, would see these with any frequency and conduct transactions with them. Aurei were also meant for foreign trade, either for luxury goods or transactions conducted by big, important merchants. So basically, it was a rare coin that would go from one very secure container to another, and years could pass before it was handled again. That's why the majority of gold coins that reached our days are actually in pretty good condition. However, we still find worn gold coins, particularly coins struck during the reigns of Nero and those struck under the Flavian emperors. What could be hidden behind this phenomena? For that, we will have to look at another hoard. Meet the Trier hoard, the single biggest Roman gold treasure ever discovered. Unearthed in the city of Trier in Germany, a breathtaking 2,516 gold coins, 18.5 kilos of gold. The coins in this hoard spawn a fairly large time span. The oldest coin is from 63 AD, minted under the reign of Nero, and the latest one is from 196, when the empire was under Septimius Severus. Now, this extension of time might sound very arbitrary and fairly long, it's an interval of 130 years, but if we dig a bit deeper into Roman monetary history, things will start making sense. You see, when the aureus was officially instituted under Emperor Augustus, 1 Roman standard pound of gold made 42 aureus coins. That meant each aureus weighed around 7.78 modern grams. Emperor Nero, looking to raise funds for the imperial coffers, reduced the weight of the aureus to 1/45 of a pound, or around 7.27 grams per gold coin. People quickly caught up to the trend, and all aureus struck before Nero's reform were either stashed away, or, if they reached the hands of the state, molten down and restruck in a lighter weight, with the difference making a profit to the state. Now, what about the later date, 196 AD? Well, guess what? The son of Septimius Severus, Emperor Caracalla, reduced the weight of the aureus again in 215 AD, this time to 1/50th of a pound, so down to 6.5 grams. With that piece of information, we can make a couple of assumptions. First, we can conclude that whoever started this hoard started doing so after Nero's monetary reform, and by that time, no pre-Neronian reform gold coins were in circulation anymore. Now, since the last coin of the hoard dates to a decade before Caracalla's reform, this might be the case that the owner of this treasure died or had to abandon this hoard before the reform, but we can be sure that whoever owned this treasure, if they lived after Caracalla's reform, they would try their best to stash away any pre-reform coins and only spend the post-Caracalla reform lightweight ore instead. This also explains why there's a fairly large number of very worn aureus from Nero and the subsequent emperors, Vespasian, Titus, etc. Since from the time of Nero to the time of Caracalla, the aureus was kept at the same weight, so there was no real push to hoard coins away in this large time frame. Therefore, we could find very worn, 100+ old coins from Nero and the Flavians circulating amongst the Roman elite of the early 3rd century. With that in mind, for our initial question, how long did ancient gold coins circulate? Unfortunately, we are left with 3 somewhat vague answers. Gold coins circulated. 1. Not much at all, as they were meant to be used as a store of value and in big, unusual transactions. 2. They circulated as long as the next emperor decided to mess up with the monetary standard, and at that moment, Gresham's law that dictates that bad money drives away good money would see the old, heavier coins leave circulation. And 3. At least in the well-recorded apogee of the Roman Empire, few gold coins could see 100 to maybe 130 years of circulation, although this would be very low-intensity circulation. Phew, that was a lot of tangents I had to go on to get you the answers, but hey, at least now we have a somewhat informed answer based on archaeological and numismatic evidence of how long ancient coins, or well, at least Roman coins, circulated. I want to hear from you people now. Do you think I got it all wrong? Do you think they circulated for longer, or maybe they were around for less time? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.